I'm so excited to share with you today Gale Legal Forms with San Diego Law Library. This is an excellent resource that we're able to offer to our patrons. It is a great resource for finding the form or letter you need. The Gale California Legal Forms provides access to thousands of legal forms in dozens of categories. Also, Gale Legal Forms includes almost 2,000 sample letters meant for use in California. You'll be able to find sample letters on a variety of topics, and today we're going to focus on sample wills and landlord tenants. But if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm Havilah, your friendly Reference Librarian, and we're here on sandiegolawlibrary.org. To access Gale Legal Forms in the library and also at home, we'll go into how to access it remotely at the end of the presentation. I'm going to go to sandiegolawlibrary.org and click Databases. Gale Legal Forms is right here. Now, because I'm in my home, when I click on this, it'll ask me for a password. So I already have it open right here. We're going to click Gale Legal Forms. We're going to jump right into an example. As I've become a law librarian, I have become very passionate about everyone 18 years or older having a will. It's a very important thing you should have, regardless of how much property you have. It's never too early to start planning. And recently, my sister left the state for work, and I found a template for her to fill out for her will. So that's the one I'm going to show you guys today. This is what we did was we clicked on wills and estates, and as you can see, there's 42 different forms of wills. It's kind of overwhelming. So to narrow it down, I'm going to hit Control F on my keyboard, and that allows me to search this whole web page, and I'm going to type single. So what we want is, for this particular circumstance for my sister, is a last will and testament for a single person and no children. And you can see that they have different wills depending on your station of life. So we're going to click right here for a last will and testament for a single person with no children. And this is new. They have the description, a preview, and a law summary. So of course you read the description to make sure this is the right will for you. And then the preview opens. What I really like about Gale Legal Forms is they include really detailed instructions on how to fill these things out. So you're not going to just be in a template flying blind. So it has several pages, and it goes through each of the articles, what they mean, and how you should be filling them out. And then, of course, the basic information of a will itself. And then the will itself. So you can see here's the sample language and then where you'd put your name and follow the instructions. I also really like this feature called Law Summary that they've introduced. So this gives you the governing code that has allowed people to use this type of form. So if you wanted, you could do more research on the California Probate Code section 6100 through the other section. And what they do is they'll go through here and give you a really great summary of each of the sections and the governing code of those sections. So just a lot of information there. One feature I also want to point out is, let's say, Havilah, this is too much detail. I don't care about any of this. I just want my will and I want it done. I'm like, okay, no problem. They have an option to create a similar legal document online right here within their database. And so you can fill out all your personal information and print out your will right here in Gale Legal Forms without having to deal with PDF, editing a Word document. They make it really accessible. So it's a fun feature. I'm going to bring it back. So that's one specific example. And of course, if there are any questions about what I've covered so far, please pop them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm going to take us through another specific example of why Gale Legal Forms would be helpful. So let's say I had a patron come in and they had left their property. They had left where they were living, where they were renting, and the landlord had not returned their security deposit. This is a thing that comes up a lot. So I would click landlord tenant right here on Gale Legal Forms. And what that does is put those search terms in the search box for me at the top and then gives me, okay, 627 forms, all related to landlord tenant and correspondence. And so that's a lot to deal with, but I can narrow those results pretty quickly by typing in security deposit right here. Okay, 10 out of the over 600 forms, we have 10. And you can see that depending on who the person is, if you are the landlord, there's letters specifically. Here's the landlord saying to the tenant, here's your security deposit back, and here's what we had to deduct. But for purpose of this example, what I posed was, I am a tenant trying to get my security deposit back that was never returned. So I like this letter from tenant to landlord containing notice of failure to return security deposit and demand for a return. So click right there, and it looks very similar to what we just saw with the will example. So description, to make sure we're using the right sample letter. Here's the preview, here's where you fill out the date and the landlord's name. And I found what happens with these types of issues is patrons will interact with their landlord in person, they'll send text messages, and when you're dealing with something as important as money, your security deposit, at least here in the state of California, that could be several $1,000s. You really want to make sure that you're using written letters and that they follow the letter of the law. So what Gale Legal Forms does is take the guesswork out of that type of communication. And of course, we've already looked at this a little bit, but they have related definitions. So if I was worried about the legal definition of a security deposit, I could read through right here. And it also has excellent information about landlord-tenant residential leases. So this just gives you a little more information. If it gets ugly, can't get your security deposit back, you have all the information you need to have a great normal conversation about this written. So that's a great resource. So what we've done so far is we've done 2 specific examples of how Gale Legal Forms can be useful in your everyday life related to writing your own will, and then also communicating whether you're a landlord or a tenant. There's thousands of sample letters that you have access to in this database. The one we looked at was specifically related to security deposit, if you're a tenant demanding for your security deposit back. So what I'd like to do is take now a broad look at what's included in here. So we have our most popular search forms right here. So if you're looking for information or sample letters, sample forms for your divorce, wills and estates, real estate, bankruptcy, landlord tenant, then all the sample letters at once, powers of attorney, name change, incorporation, paternity, attorneys, incorporation. So there's a lot in here. So I'll just show you one more example of how to do a targeted search, because I know that can be a little overwhelming. I'm going to click here on powers of attorney. Okay, so we have 88 right here. We're going to do powers of attorney. And let's say I want a power of attorney for a car or a motor vehicle specifically. So I'm going to type in, with my search terms, motor vehicle. Okay, right here. So I have 3 forms related to power of attorney and a motor vehicle. So for the sale, to transfer title, sure, upon the death of an individual or they're no longer able to use the car, and then register or transfer title. So another great example of how to use this. So let's go back here. That's a broad overview of the sample letters and forms that are available in Gale Legal Forms, but it does go a lot further than that. I really like the legal definitions section. So let's say we needed definitions related to estate planning. I typed in estate, and then out of all of these, let's say, okay, I'm looking at a trust. I have property and I'd like to create a trust for that property. I'm going to click right here on estate trust. And this goes through the definition of an estate trust, but it takes it a step further and it cites the relevant code. So let's say, okay, I think this might fit my circumstance. This is what I need, but I need a little more information. So what I find to be helpful is I'll take this sentence with the code citation and I'll just pop it into Google. And what that'll do, okay, immediately, here's this section of code, gift to spouse. And of course, there are other free websites that you can review the code on. There's a whole class on it on our YouTube channel. But this is a really quick way to review the code itself. So just wanted to share that little tip with you guys. Okay, so we went through legal definitions. Tax forms, not as much of a big deal right now, but earlier in the year, I had a lot of people coming into the library asking for the tax form. So we're in the state of California, Gale Legal Forms, tax forms, click right here, California, and that takes you straight to the state of California Franchise Tax Board, where you can download all of those forms. It's a great little link Now, this is another gem that I was able to find when looking through this database. A lot of times patrons will come into the library asking for a referral for a specific subject matter, and because of the way we're funded, that's not something reference librarians can do. We are limited to referring people through the lawyer referral service at the San Diego County Bar Association. So, say I'm the state of California and I am looking for a debt relief attorney. And here's a whole list of firms available in the specific area. Here's a bunch in San Diego. So just a little tip there, depending if you're looking for representation. The Law Digest is another example of people who are looking for some more research opportunities within Gale Legal Forms. So you're not necessarily coming here for a sample letter or a form. You want some more information before you decide what form to use, what fits your circumstance. So what I've done is I've searched for estate in here in the Law Digest section. And let's say I want estate and gift taxes right here. And so what this gives me is a whole digest, including all of those citations to codes like we saw before. And it goes through quite a bit of detail on what is involved. And then, so here's the definition for the introduction. And then here are how it's organized. So we have a gift section, testamentary transfers, deductions, and computation of tax. So a little bit dry, but it's a great way to understand what it is you're looking to file or what it is you'd like to prepare, depending on your circumstance related to estate. Or another good example is divorce, bankruptcy, power of attorney, a lot of the specific examples we looked at. So that's the Law Digest. Going to skip over right here to the legal Q&A, and we're going to return to our landlord-tenant example for this one because I find this very helpful. So these are the question categories. And see, even me as a reference librarian, I'm having trouble finding the landlord-tenant one. So I'm going to use that Control F thing again. You can use this in any web browser. So I hit the Control key, FE, and I'm going to type in landlord. Oh, and see, it was right there at the top in front of my face, and I could not find it. So we're going to click right here for landlord-tenant. So this it's organized a little strangely, in my opinion, but still useful. What they have is a bunch of questions related to landlord-tenant, but they have questions that have been answered throughout the United States. So when you clicked on that, it's not just California, it's throughout the state. So if I'm looking for answers to legal questions of the state of California, we'll use the Control F thing again, and I type a little space and then CA for the state of California. And now it's going to highlight the ones that are, say, CA. So here's one related to a improvement that a tenant made to a property while renting and then left. And so they're asking, do they have any claim to the cost associated with improving the property upon moving out? And so I'd click View Answer. And it goes through all the different codes related to this question right here, California Civil Code 1965, and it goes through and then applies that code to the question. So as a layperson, or even as an attorney, depending on what type of research you're doing, this takes a lot of the guesswork out of it because it takes a specific question that is hopefully related to your research and then applies the code directly. So it's a really cool feature. The legal life articles, I find the ones for estate planning particularly helpful, but that could also be just it's what's on the brain right now. So let's say estate planning. What I'm trying to communicate to patrons who don't have an estate or a trust or a will in place is the importance of it. So it answers kind of questions like, what happens if I die without a last will and testament? Or do I still need a will if I have very little assets outside of those which have been named beneficiaries? And it goes into why it's important. Should I use a simple will? And answers that question. So what the legal life articles have attempted to do is break down important legal questions that relate to everyday life and make them accessible. So lastly, helpful topics. We're going to spend some time in estate law just because we like it so much. Oh, and I'm having trouble finding it. So let's try Control F again. Let's try our handy dandy. Say wills instead. Okay, all the way at the bottom. Look at the ones related to wills. So let's just wait for that background noise to pass. See, this happens all the time, just in regular life. I do apologize about this. It should end soon. Yes. It's almost over. All right, that was exciting. So we're going to say wills right here. And what this does is it goes over what a will is and what it provides for and the benefits of preparing a will, the common terms that you'll encounter. And I know that trips a lot of people up. They're like, okay, I need a will, but I don't know what it is to bequeath something. I don't know what an executor is. What is a self-proving affidavit? And this explains all of that to you in a very accessible way. Oh, okay, went through a lot in Gale Legal Forms. We went through specific examples of how Gale Legal Forms can benefit you when it comes to landlord-tenant communications. We went through writing a will. We went through opportunities to write a power of attorney, and then the great research opportunities that they have here at Gale Legal Forms. So that's great. I know clearly after this presentation, you are sold on Gale Legal Forms and you're like, I need this. And I need to access it all the time. Well, you can apply to be a borrower and access Gale Legal Forms remotely from the San Diego Law Library. And I am excited to share with you today how to do that. So again, Gale Legal Forms is always available for free at the main branch on 1105 Front Street in downtown San Diego. But of course, with all this information, you may want to access it from your home. So to do that, you would become a borrower with San Diego Law Library, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Let us return to sandiegolawlibrary.org, and I'm just going to go right back to the home page. And no matter where you are in our website, if you click on the logo, it takes you right back to the front screen. We have all these helpful buttons. We were clicking on legal databases earlier in the presentation, and what we're going to click on now is the borrower program. So this goes through all of the benefits of being a borrower, some of which we already talked about. First example, we're one of the few public law libraries throughout the United States that allows our materials to circulate. In addition to accessing those costly practice guides, you can access these following databases remotely. So CCH Answers Connect, the Gale Legal Forms, California Legal, tripping up my words. The one we were just in, Gale Legal Forms, and Hein Online, the National Consumer Law Center, Lexis eBooks, the San Diego Digital Law Library, Trellis, and Walters Kluwer. So just chock full of benefits of being a borrower with us. And because of the way we're funded, we're a little bit different than the county or city libraries. So we have a borrower fee. It starts at $50 a year. And each of the levels, the $50 or the $75, relate to how many physical books you can check out at a time. But everyone gets the same database access. So either which one you are, you have access to this. So if you are already a borrower with us and you don't know how to access Gale Legal Forms, be sure to reach out to the reference desk to find out. Or I think I can show you. What would happen is you would go to sandiegolawlibrary.org, databases, and you're going to click right here. So instead of clicking right here on the name of the database like you would if you're in the library, you're going to look over here where it says borrowers and benefit holders only, and click right here. And this prompts you to put in the barcode of your library card number. So if you do not know what your library card number is, you're going to reach out to us via phone or email, and then you can access Gale Legal Forms and all the other ones we talked about remotely. So that is how you can access Gale Legal Forms remotely. That is everything I have for you today. I'm not seeing anything coming through the chat, so no problem there. If you have any questions, be sure to email the ref desk or come visit us in person. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day.